Okay, it is book review time. The book is called Susan Mallery. The title is called Tempting. It is the fourth in the Buchanan series, and if you have not read this series, I read it backwards. This is number 4. I should have read it last. But let me tell you something. It's got me wanting to read the first 3 books now. So I'm going to be happy because I got the first 3 books and I'm going to work backwards. That was a Christmas present to myself. I went on eBay, found my favorite author, one of my favorite authors, and I was able to finally get those books. You have no idea how long I've been watching 2 of those books because I found 2 at Goodwill, but I did not find the other 2 at Goodwill. So I had to go online and find them there. Anyway, Susan Mallery Tempting. Here's what she says it's about. Nothing hotter than a disaster in the making. After 3 romantic flameouts in a year and a restaurant career going nowhere, Danny Buchanan needs a fresh start. She goes looking for her biological father, but never expects to find a senator running for president. As his long-lost quote-unquote love child, Danny could seriously derail the election. Something his handsome campaign manager, Alex Canfield, isn't going to let happen. Danny isn't about to let Alex run her life, no matter how tempting she finds him. And Alex isn't going to allow Danny to melt his cynicism, no matter how close he has to get. The last thing either of them wants is love, especially with scandals brewing and family trouble on the way. But Danny and Alex are forced to trust each other, and when trust turns to passion, the potential for danger is truly only for a tabloid scandal away. And on the front it says, "Why is the wrong man always the right man?" Well, that being said, we all know what the book's about. It came out in 2007, at least that's when it was copyrighted. We're going to move over here to page 116. Now, you all know, usually if I don't read to you by the page 50, it's not a good book. I had serious doubts, I won't lie, concerning this book. It was another one of those questionable relationship kind of books. Because, yes, she was searching for her long-lost father. And then she falls in love with her long-lost father's adopted son, who is the campaign manager. That part didn't do a dang thing for me. But the fact that Danny had 3 failed relationships kind of, it was like going, okay, I'm going to listen to this. Not going to happen anytime soon, she reminded herself. In the past year, she'd been left by her husband, who claimed she hadn't grown enough in their marriage, a total sham to cover up his cheating. She'd fallen for and been seduced by a seemingly perfect man who turned out to be married. Last but certainly not least, she met a kind, quiet guy who only recently left the priesthood. It was a challenge she hadn't been willing to take on. Her love life had become a cautionary tale. We're going to move on. The next paperclip. There's not too many of these until we get to the end of the book, surprisingly enough. Okay, page. Why did I mark 254? I didn't mark it, so give me a moment, kids. Maybe it was 253. It was 253. Families were a complication, Danny thought. Now she had 2 families. What on earth was she going to do with them? Well, to find out, you'll have to read the book. I wanted to kind of spark your ingenuity to read this series, and I hope that as we go along, I do just that. If you like to read as much as I do, these books are complicated enough, like a Dynasty sitcom, to a little bit of comedy, to a little bit of sadness, to a little bit of joy. It kind of reminds you of that Ray Stevens song, Like My Own Grandpa. It gets quite complicated. Anyway, page 285. I'm trying to help you see that you don't have all the facts. If it turns out he's betrayed you, then I'll have Walker hire some mercenary type to grind him into dust. There was a fierceness in Gloria's voice that made Danny feel safe and loved. Gloria is her grandma. It was no match for the ache inside, but it helped a little. I like that plan. So we're in agreement. In the meantime, you need more information. You have to talk to Alex. Not today, Danny said. She barely had gotten through her shift at Bellaroma before escaping Gloria's house, and where she collapsed. Not for a long time. Eventually. Maybe. Danny wiped her face and wondered how she would ever get over this if Alex was the cheat that she suspected. Were they really no good men out there, or was she just cursed never to find one of her own? We move on. Page 333. No, I'm to blame for that. Your accusation caught me off guard. My pride got in the way. I thought you should have believed in me. Later I realized that given your past and how short a time we've known each other, believing what looked like real proof made sense. Yeah? Did this mean he wasn't going to let her get away? Yeah, he leaned in and kissed her. It's just that she knew stuff about my house, like the fireplace being on remote. She'd seen the place. She was pissed that I left her house, or left her, so when she found out I was interested in the house, she bid against me. The irony is that because of the divorce settlement, she was bidding against me with my own money. Danny sighed. I never thought of her seeing it that way, but with you, I'm sorry. I never thought of her seeing it that anyway, but with you, I'm sorry. Don't be, I should have handled things differently. The pregnancy threw me. I was trying to figure out who she could have been seeing. After the fact, I thought maybe you would have seen the distraction as guilt or surprise. Kind of. He kissed her again. His mouth was warm and promising. She wanted to keep kissing him, but considering their location and how much her head hurt, it probably was not a good idea. He says, I don't want her. I want you. Good answer. Are we okay? She touched her head. I have to stop doing that. What about the poll numbers, he asked. They were bothering you before. I don't know. You're the expert at this, not me. Do we ignore them and hope they go away? You can't run your life based on a campaign. Which sounded great, she thought, but was it reality? Mark was her father. What did she owe him? I don't want to ruin anything, she admitted. I don't want to be the reason he doesn't become president. You would walk away from me? Alex said. Studied him, trying to figure out what he was thinking. Are you saying that you wouldn't? That if Mark asked you not to see me, you'd tell him to go to hell? She placed her fingers on her own mouth. Be honest, he's your father. You value loyalty above everything else. This is his dream. Do either of us have that right to destroy that? There will be other scandals. But right now, she was the scandal du jour. We don't have to deal with this tonight, Alex told her. Get some rest and I'll be by to take you home in the morning. I'll look forward to it. He kissed her and left. Now, why is she in the hospital? She defended her adopted sister. Well, I don't know if it would be it'd be adopted stepsister. Now, there is something great about this book. Catherine couldn't have children. So before Catherine and Mark got married, now stay with me, this is the parents to both of the kids. It's a long drawn out story. He didn't cheat because Catherine called off their engagement. She went home, called off the engagement. Okay, well, Mark, meanwhile, sees this amazing woman named Marcia Buchanan. Now, this is where Danny Buchanan comes into play. Now, Danny tracks Mark, now what's the last name here? Canfield, down by the birth certificate. And that's where she meets Alex right off the bat because he's the campaign manager who even does a background check while she's talking to the senator. They do a test that comes back she is in fact the daughter, which that then becomes how is his wife going to act to this because nobody knew that this daughter existed, least of all he didn't. And if he would have, he said things would have been different, but who knows? We can't, foresee how things would have really worked out. Meanwhile, Catherine couldn't have children, so they adopted 8 children with special needs. You talk about a saint. That woman deserves a medal, a star, whatever. Anyway, it was amazing because one of the little girls is close to her brother, Alex, who was adopted by the Canfields. And it's Bailey. And Bailey is going shopping with her sister Danny. They get assaulted in the alleyway. And Danny protects Bailey so much she gets this injury on her head, right over her eye. and has to go to the hospital in the back of the ambulance. Thank God the stepmom was tailing him because she was jealous and hurt that she couldn't go shopping with him, which if she would have just said, hey, I want to go shopping with y'all, she would have been included, but she didn't bother to do that. So, see, I do get passionate about my books. Anyway, we move on. Page 360. You're talking about a child, but you did give me children. You gave me 8 of them. Selfishly, what's more important to me is that you gave me myself. I'm the man I am today because of you. That reminds me of a Chris Young song, The Man I Want to Be. Oh, perfect. Anyway, back to the book. That might not be saying much, but no, I know I'm a better person for having loved you all those years. You are the best part of me, Catherine, always have been. You see me through the eyes blinded by love, and most of the time I want to live up to your impossible expectations. His words reached out and hugged her heart. She felt both exposed and gratified. Really, yes, there's no choice. There was never a choice. Life happened, and now look at what I have. Would I choose Marcia? I can't regret Danny, but I wouldn't trade her for one of our children. Who would I have to give up? Julie? Alex? Oliver? And whose smile would I not get to see? Bailey's? Sasha? They're my children too. I can't live without any of them, or you. You always have been the heart of me, Catherine, and I love you. Mark was good with words, but this time she believed him, believed them, and they washed over her, healing old wounds, making her certain that loving him had been the right thing to do. You are the light of my life, and I would be lost without you, he said, and he kissed her. She kissed him back, putting all that passion into the moment in her lips and tongue and breath. He chuckled. Okay, now you're making trouble on purpose. And we're going to move on here. Page 362. She's asking him to let the dream go. Why? Because Danny has decided she's going to leave town. Alex wants to quit the campaign. It's just all messed up. We're going to get into it right here. The price is too high. It's time to let your dream go. Color drained from his face. He seemed to shrink a little, hunching down as if crushed by his disappointment. It physically hurt her to say those words, and she should have given anything to call them back, but she couldn't. There were too many other lives at stake. She might be willing to die for her husband, but she wouldn't continue to hurt those she loved for him. She braced herself for the argument, the rage, the accusations. She knew how much he wanted the chance to make history. He stunned her by straightening, then squeezing her fingers and saying, "If you think that's what's best." What? He smiled. I trust you, Catherine. I've always trusted you. You wouldn't have asked me on a whim. You know what this means to me and what I'll be giving up. What was the line from that Star Trek movie that I like so much? The needs of many. I'll have to write up an announcement today and give it out to the press. It will be the usual statement about spending more time with my family. Ironically, it will be true. That was it? No protesting, no yelling, no anything, just like that? He kissed her. Just like that, Catherine. I love you. Someday you're going to have to start believing that. She sucked in a breath and threw herself into his arms. Tears burned her eyes. Thank you. No, don't thank me. You're the amazing one in this relationship. I'm going along for the ride. He ran his hands up and down her back again. What if I told you that door has a lock? She always carried a weight inside, the heavy burden of being the one who loved, rather than the one who was loved. For the first time ever, that weight cracked and fell away. She felt lighter, happier, filled with possibilities. I'd tell you to use it and let's get naked. Okay. We're going to move on. We only got 2 paper clips to go. And these are the most important of the paper clips. More important than my bad hair moment right there. What do you expect when you get all hot and sweaty working out to Easton Corbin, John Party, and Sawyer Brown, and Neil McCoy? Anyway, here we go. Whew. Page 368. Okay, I like how Catherine taught all of her kids not to hate anyone, that it took too much energy. And when Catherine confronts Fiona, who was being her friend and trying to work her way back to Alex's heart and home by being his wife again because she was an ex-wife, she gets called out by Catherine, and that's the mom. And she says, "You don't frighten me." Catherine smiled slowly. "Don't I? Are you sure?" Fiona took a step back. "Which stupid old cow, I hate you." "Really? I don't have the energy to even think about you." We're going to move on. Oh, I love this page. Danny is having a talk with her grandma. And she's just telling her, "I'm doing this for the greater good. I'm going to pack up, leave, and it'll be best for the campaign, best for this family that I'm in with you, and best for the family that I found with my dad, and definitely best for Alex, so there won't be a scandal." So, let's start here. Where did I have that marked? Oh, we'll just start from here and go on, because this is too good. "This is a mistake," Gloria said, as Danny pulled out more clothes and put them on the bed. "You can't run away. I forbid it." Danny tried to smile. "Then what? I'll be grounded? If that's what it takes. I'm doing the right thing, and deep in your heart, you know I'm right. There's no other solution." "There's always another solution. You can't leave now." "I don't want to," Danny admitted, wishing that they could talk about something else. It was hard enough to think about leaving without facing her grandmother. "I can't even keep from hurting the people that I love." "You're not hurting your Buchanan family, so what if you hurt them?" "That's warm and loving. Catherine and Mark have 8 children of their own. They'll hardly notice you. You're the only granddaughter that I have." Danny didn't know if she should laugh or burst into tears. "You do have a way with words." "Am I wrong?" She sank onto the bed, and Gloria sat next to her. "Don't go," her grandmother said. "I'm old. What if I get sick and die and you never see me again?" "Don't you dare play that death card. That's not fair." "I don't care about being fair. I want you to stay, Danny. You have to stay. We just found each other. It hurts so much." Danny thought as she fought against the pain. It hurt to breathe. She didn't want to leave. Not now, when she just found everything she ever wanted. She was supposed to be starting her dream job, learning about her new family while being with her old family, being in love with a great guy. It should have been perfect, if only. "I know," Danny said, staring into Gloria's eyes and seeing the pain there. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Stay. We'll work this out. I didn't raise you to be a quitter." "I'm not a quitter. I'm not quitting. I'm just doing what's best. Can't you see that most things are bigger than us? They might be bigger than you, but they are not bigger than me." Danny managed another smile. "You are determined, aren't you?" "I fight for what's mine. You can learn from that." "What about that boy you're seeing, Alex?" "I don't know. We had a big fight." "So that's it? One big fight and it's over?" "I can't make him love me." "How do you know he doesn't? Did you ask? Did you tell him that you love him?" Had she? Not exactly. And Alex had said that he'd fallen for her, which meant what? "Not exactly." Gloria stood and glared at her. "Damn it all to hell, Danny, you're really screwing this up." Danny opened her mouth, then closed it. "You're swearing. I'm shocked." "Get over it. This is important. This is your life. This is for real. Why do you feel that everyone else comes first? Why do their dreams matter than your own?" "Because she's afraid." Danny rose and toward the speaker. It was Alex. Danny rose and turned toward the speaker. It was Alex. He stood there in the doorway to her bedroom. Her heart instantly started dancing in her chest. The rest of her body sighed in appreciation, as if every cell had been waiting for him. She ignored her biological betrayal and raised her chin. "I am not afraid." "Sure you are. You've been fighting your whole life. And time again you get slapped down. All those years fighting Gloria." He glanced at the old woman. "No offense. I'll decide if I'm offended when I see where this is going." Alex turned back to Danny. "You gave everything you had to you, and he dumped on you. Ryan was the worst because he planned it. Gary was," he shrugged. "I don't know what Gary was." "Biblical humor," Danny murmured, not sure what she thought of Alex's words. "You've been burned so many times you're afraid to get near the fire. So when you and I got together, you were terrified. Maybe not consciously, but somewhere deep inside. Then you found out you were hurting Catherine, which you hated. Catherine was the mom to the 8 kids that was adopted, that was Mark's now wife. You respect her and didn't want to make things harder. You were totally out of your comfort zone, thrown in a political campaign, an attack on Bailey, and you reached your breaking point. It makes sense. Thanks for the recap, she murmured, knowing that he might be right. Now what are you doing here? He stepped into her bedroom. Fighting for you. I'm making sure you don't do something that you'll regret the rest of your life. Which would be walking away from me. You've never lacked confidence. Not really, but I've never been as sure of something as I am knowing that we belong together. You can't leave, Danny. This is where you belong. If only, she thought again, wishing it was possible. She loved him, needed him, wanted him, only him. Being with Alex had taught her to understand Catherine's devotion to Mark. But there are complications. Not as many as you think, Catherine said, as she and Mark walked into the bedroom, followed by Danny's brothers. Danny found herself backed into a corner, literally. What's going on? We're holding an intervention, Alex told her. It was my idea, and you can thank me later. I don't understand. We're not letting you go, Cal said, then grinned. I don't mean that in a scary stalker kind of way. Good to know, she murmured. You belong here, Walker said, with all of us. Maybe with that guy. He jerked his head towards Alex. He seems okay. I like him, Reed said. He's got good taste. But what about how much I've hurt you? Danny looked at Catherine, then at Mark. I'm hurting the campaign. Mark, as handsome and smooth as ever, put his arm around his wife's shoulder. I'm pulling out of the race. This isn't a good time. My press office is issuing a statement. He checked his watch. Right about now. Danny felt the need to sit down. Everything was happening too fast. But you want to be president. It's your dream. Some things cost too much. He looked at Alex. I got a little carried away before with the charges, and we'll talk later. Okay, yeah. Alex turned his back to Danny. You're running out of excuses. Danny's mind went into a free fall. If Mark wasn't running for president, then the press wouldn't care about her or anyone in their family. If there weren't any watchful eyes around, then life could be normal. Alex reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a velvet box, and Danny's body froze. Her first thought was that he was going to propose. Her second thought was that proposing probably meant that he loved her, which made her want to do a happy dance. Her third was how much he was putting on the line by doing this in front of both their families. Her last thought was she couldn't wait to say yes. Oh dear, Catherine said, putting a hand on Alex's arm. I should have gotten this to you sooner. I have something to tell you. He looked at her. Mom, this isn't the time. I know, but I have to say it. I'll talk fast. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a diamond ring. If you prefer the one you bought, I'll completely understand, but in case you want something different, she handed him the ring. This belonged to your grandmother. I don't know why I didn't think of it before She cleared her throat. Anyway, I saw it this morning and hoped. Alex stared at the ring. Danny knew exactly what he was thinking, that the ring should stay in the family, and until that moment, he'd never been totally one of them. She recognized the emotions chasing across his face because she felt them herself when she'd been with her brothers, that the sense of belonging, not belonging. Was that the connection she had with Alex, that they shared a basic knowledge of what life was to be like on the outside, that they were both looking for a place to belong? She moved toward him. I want to be the one, she told him, not caring who else was in the room. I want to be the only one. I want to be that safe place where you go where you can go no matter what. You're stealing my speech. You had a speech? I was going to tell you that I loved you more than I've ever loved anyone, that you're the only one I want to be with, that I belong with you, and that I'm with you. Belong. There was that word again. Those on the inside would never know how much it meant to feel it. I love you, Danny, he continued, and move back. Gloria whispered, everyone move back and give the boy room to kneel. You know, you're gonna kneel, weren't you? Alex grinned. Is it going to always be like this? Danny glanced around at the people who loved her, then looked at the man who would always make things right. I have a feeling we're not getting away from that. Is that okay? It's the best. And to find out what happens in the epilogue, you gotta read it. Like I said, I was not a fan in the beginning, but the end, where he works with both families to make it even keel, how could I not give this book an 8. It's that good. Read it. I'm going to read backwards now to the next book in the series. And hopefully some of the things that happened in this book that didn't make a whole lot of sense will get cleared up by the previous books. And I don't suggest reading it that way, but if you have to, you have to. Just saying. So that's your book review. Love y'all. See ya probably tomorrow.